Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about if senior developers feel threatened when juniors starts to catch up. So let's get into it. Well, I'm just going to give you my answer as quickly as I humanly can. No, not even a little. And the answer is very simple, because I genuinely enjoy seeing people getting better at what they do. You may have suspected that I have a vague interest in helping people out and sharing my knowledge completely free of charge, by the by, and trying my absolute best to give away everything that I learn, because I enjoy seeing other people getting better at things. It's kind of like you know that old saying, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach him to fish and he eats for a lifetime. That's very much in many ways, my favorite philosophy when it comes to knowledge sharing. And it is exactly the sort of thing that I enjoy most in this world. It's extremely rewarding. I can't even describe it in words that make sense to you, but it makes a lot of sense to me. How it feels to see a person who goes from that moment of uncertainty and fear, because everybody starts there, to confidence. You see, it's almost like you can actually see it in their eyes when you explain something, when you, as the person who's trying to help them out or trying to teach them, you manage to formulate yourself in such a way. You pick that perfect sequence of words that just makes things clear to the other person, and you can see their eyes just ever so slightly go up, and they kind of go, ah, okay, I think I understand now. And then they apply that knowledge, and all of a sudden they actually grew in their knowledge base. I was extremely fortunate to see this happen yesterday. It was, it felt pretty special, I have to say. So it was a while back now. I changed my team a few weeks ago to try new things. And before that, I spent quite a few months coaching and training a new junior at my company. So she and I, we were like two peas in a pod in many ways. We're very different people. She was struggling a little bit in the beginning of things with fear and stuff like that, and I did my absolute best to try to make her feel comfortable and like make sure that she felt that she could talk to me under any circumstances. That's the first thing that you should always go for. Always go for comfort. Comfort is more important than anything else. Because once you have the comfort, they open up, and then you can actually really get to know them and get to a point where you can apply a learning pattern or a learning strategy where they feel engaged, but they also get the exact level of attention that they need, because you can't push too much and you can't push too little. You need to find that perfect pressure point where they are moving forward without being crushed, and at the same time they don't feel understimulated, or that you are neglecting them, basically. So it's a balancing act. But I saw her yesterday, and I mean, my mental picture of this person has been for so long that, oh yeah, she does get the job done. We try to keep the stories fairly straightforward, fairly simple, because she's still learning, and a lot of uncertainties and a lot of questions, of course, regarding different parts of the system. And then yesterday I saw her stand next to another junior, pointing at the screen and explaining exactly how this guy was supposed to put together basically a part of the system which was a little bit more complicated than what he was used to. And he has, in a fashion, in a way, he's a little bit more experienced. They're sort of junior, both of them, but he at least in my mental line, he was a little bit ahead. And it felt absolutely amazing to see her stand there with her hands on her hips and just pointing at the screen and say, oh yeah, you should do this and you should do that, and like just talking she looked like any senior. She literally looked like any of the other seniors there who, like, when they were showing somebody the ropes about something. And then she just went back to her computer, and I was like, oh. I was so proud. I really was. I was so proud of her, because she did exactly what I had hoped. She grew into her knowledge, and now she shares that knowledge with the other juniors, which strengthens the whole company. And that's the thing. That's why I don't feel, at least at the personal level, I don't feel threatened at all when a junior gets up to gets closer to my experience level, even if they're better than, like, even if they get to be better than me. Because the thing is that this idea that somebody's just going to be better at coding than you are is a little bit, I think it's very one-dimensional in a fashion. You see, the thing is that a lot of people they like to think in terms of that there's a binary answer to this idea of skill. And I think that this comes from sports. Because you see, the thing is, with sports, the only thing that matters is how fast do you get there, how strong are you, how high can you jump, these sorts of things. Did you win the game? These things. These are the things that make the difference. That's what we define as success within sports. But when it comes to more liquid and more complicated matters, such as engineering, science, law, or business, or sales, or stuff like that, these sorts of things it's almost impossible to accurately measure how much better than somebody is versus somebody else. If I give you an example, if you take Mr. Bezos, I think, the head of Amazon, or you take Bill Gates as an example, who is the better entrepreneur? How will you answer that? Steve Jobs, was he the best entrepreneur? There's no way that you can answer, oh yes, one of them is better than the other, because they have completely different life paths. And a few, like one or two of them might be a lot richer than the other person, and so vice versa and so forth, but you can always argue that one was more innovative than the other. Like, there's no way for you to say that this person is just much, much better. It's all about how do you measure this. This is something that I've told other people as well when you go into a technical interview. If you fail a technical interview, that does not necessarily mean that you are crap at programming. It simply means that in that exact moment, given those circumstances with that test, you, from the perspective of this company, you were not good enough to get hired. Does that mean that you are shit at programming? No. That's not what it means. It depends on how you want to look at it. So the system of measuring something is equally important to how it is almost the most important, I would say, in many ways, when it comes to defining what something is, if somebody's better or if somebody's worse than somebody else. Then of course there are things that, I mean, if you're hitting all the marks in many, many areas, absolutely. If you're faster and all your solutions kind of pan out, it's extremely hard. But you can have like a very subjective, vague understanding that somebody is better than somebody else, or more experienced, or faster, or smarter, or something like that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to a lot of subjective stuff. So when a junior catches up to me in terms of productivity, I look at that as a very positive thing, because the thing is that my company, they're not, my job doesn't come down to just being able to churn out code as quickly as I humanly can. Now, if I can do that, that's absolutely great. The faster I am, the better. But at the end of the day, I am filling a function within that company. So even, hiring a new junior means that we need more resources to move even faster. And if I can get a junior up to speed and actually have them be really productive, odds are that, I will not have to deal with possible bugs or shit that comes down. Because trust me on this, if your juniors are committing code to your code base and you kind of leave them to hang in the wind and they start causing all kinds of bugs, you're the one, as the senior, who is going to have to help out. You're the one who's going to, it's kind of like a community type of thing. If one person in the community really, really causes a lot of problems and so forth, and you can't get rid of that person, or so forth, then it affects everybody. It's like pollution. It's not just a one country problem. It's everybody's problem. And the better that you can make that junior more productive, the likelier you are to get your vacation, the likelier you are to not have to wake up at 5 in the morning, or like even earlier than that, to answer a system outage call or something like that that was caused by something. And it's more likely that you won't have legacy code and so forth. So you're a team, right? And just as with any team, if you are more experienced, and I'm assuming here that you are also progressing your career, your understanding, the junior will at best, like they might start to bridge that gap because it's easier to, like it's usually easier to get close to someone with a lot of experience than it is for that person to progress like really, really far, because they're ahead, just a little bit ahead, but that gap usually closes, but you're still ahead. So the value that you are producing as the senior should be something that is fairly impossible for a junior to completely just overcome and then just throw you off the bus. So if that happens and you start feeling threatened, then I would ask, are you really giving it your all? Or have you given up on this idea of like continuous personal improvement? Because if you have, then yeah, sure, you might feel threatened, but I think that then the problem isn't the junior, because they are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But what the hell are you doing? So what I want you to take away from this is that at least me, I don't feel threatened at all by a junior. I mean, I don't really care if somebody is better than me at software development. If that's the case, I just want them to help me out too, so that I can be better to answer my questions. And I don't care if they are naturally gifted or if they're just more experienced and so forth and so forth. But I do really love to see someone go from inexperienced or uncertain and a little bit afraid to confident and able to act on their own volition. And that's the sort of thing that gets to be really rewarding when you have no fear as I said, when you have no fear of somebody else progressing, and you want to encourage that, because you do actually reap quite a lot of benefits from this sort of thing. And the only time I can imagine this being a problem or a threat to you and your career is if you've already become complacent, and then I really think that that's the real issue here. Not the fact that somebody else is trying to improve their career, it's rather that you stopped trying to improve yours. Have a great day.